Of the Board of Education for Tuesday, August 13th, 2024. This meeting is now called to order. Mrs. Fox, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Donna Walker.
Here.
Claudia Heydrich. Here. Cheryl Blogg.
Here.
Angie Smith.
Here.
Terry Weens, President.
Here.
Mabel Fox, myself, here.
David Turner.
Claudia.
David.
Just a turn.
Oh, I have to put Turner in. Sorry. Okay. Mr. Turner.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you. We'll now rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. At an earlier special meeting of the Board of Education at 5 o'clock today, the board voted unanimously to appoint Dr. David Turner as our Board Trustee to fill the vacancy filled by Zach Rich. I am very proud to welcome you. Thank you for your service in advance. We really, really appreciate it. At this time, we will now do the oath of office. Thank you, Mrs. Miles, for coming to do this for us. You can stand at the podium. I think Dr. Turner, would you please meet with her to take her oath of office? Thank you.
Sorry. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state.
I solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States and of this state.
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
And I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
of membership of the Board of Education of Farmington Public Schools
of membership of the Board of Education of Farmington Public Schools
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
We're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, I would like to thank Dr. Turner for his service in advance. We really appreciate you agreeing to serve and know that you bring a bunch of experience and expertise with you, which we very much value and appreciate. I am also welcoming, really, but not really, Dr. Kelly Coffin, who was earlier today appointed as our interim superintendent, and we're very glad to have you added to our Board of Education as well. Thank you for your service as well. We will now entertain a motion for the agenda.
I'd like to move to amend the agenda to include discussion item D, which is emergency 15-E15 plan, to be included as an action item.
Support.
Motion made by Mr. Walker, supported by Dr. Turner, to add an agenda item under action items D for emergency 15-E15 plan. Is there any discussion? Just so that the public is aware, we have a discussion item that requires an action today, and so we wanted to make sure that we amended the agenda properly to reflect that we are doing both a discussion and an action item for today. The item was included on the agenda, just needs to be in two places. With that said, can we have all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that action will be taken, and now we will entertain an action to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as now presented.
Support.
Motion to approve the agenda made by Mr. Walker, supported by Mrs. Smith. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to announcements. This will be a long-winded one. The rest of my announcements in the future will not be as long-winded, but we have a lot going on, and we're just getting back from the summer. I hope everyone is having a fabulous summer. It is still summer to me and to everyone else, I hope. While we were meant to be taking a break, we've been very hard at work. As you know, we needed to fill both a board vacancy and a superintendent vacancy. And at a special meeting, as I said an hour ago, we voted to welcome Dr. David Turner and Dr. Kelly Coffin as board trustee and interim superintendent, respectively. Personally, I'm very happy to have acted on these and look forward to ensuring the district continues and benefits from the positive momentum we've seen over the course of the past year. Welcome to both of you. Early in this year, I met with about 20 community members in order to collect some feedback on student growth and achievement, multicultural experiences, and the reputation of the district. I reached out to several groups and attendees, including the beloved community, famed Church of Farmington, FAPN, former candidates of the Board of Education, teachers, parents, and regular attendees of these board meetings. It was a really good meeting. I heard from community members how we hold groups accountable, the importance of transparency and communications related to data, among many other things. And I appreciate the folks who took the time to come out. I expect to have further dialogues. These are not public meetings, rather they are meetings that are held by me in my capacity as the president of the Board of Education for the purpose of hearing from my community members. I want to thank Mrs. Smith for organizing, and Vice President Walker for taking notes, and Secretary Fox for also attending. Separately, I realize that there's a little bit of confusion going on with social media posts, and I want to be clear that the Board of Education does not make posts to social media websites other than on the official district website and on official district pages. So any posts that you may see that refer to the Board of Education that are not hosted on a FPS site are not coming from the board. The board has no control over those the content on those sites. And in fact, if any of our partners who do post anonymously could be clear that the posts are not coming from the Board of Education, that would be very much appreciated. On another note, I attended a legal update with the Michigan Association of School Boards just about a week ago. It was a really good way to refamiliarize myself with several areas and some opportunities to learn and grow as well. A couple things that stood out to me. First was the importance of due process for both staff and students. And I realized that as issues have come up and that our community members want a lot of information when things happen in our district, but it is extremely important to hold off in many cases on sharing information before we have all of the facts and before either staff or students have had the opportunity for due process. So that was a very good, helpful, important reminder. We have to give thought to how much we can share. We know our community wants information without compromising the due process for students and staff. We may be looking to develop some guidelines around this, particularly with students. There may be an instance where we've had student altercations or issues, some to the point where obviously parents would want to have some additional information, and it's natural for people to want to have that information, but we also must be careful and allow for due process. Mr. Walker, I'm Freudian slipping. Mr. Walker also attended, so I don't know if you have anything to add from that legal workshop. Thank you. Another note related to public comment. I've added a second public comment to this meeting, and will do so for future meetings in the hopes that as we continue going forward, at least through the determination of a superintendent, we will allow more opportunities to have the public give public comment. We know that there are folks who aren't able to get to the meeting early. We also know that there are some folks who like to get in and get out. And so we want to provide every opportunity, especially since this is the most important decision that the Board of Education makes related to superintendent selection. And so we want to make sure that we're getting as much public comment as possible. Board goals is the next topic. I want to thank my colleagues again, first of all, for electing me as president. I will do my best. I also want to thank our former executive leadership team. I know that this is a lot of work, so I want to thank former President Blau, Mrs. Heinrich, Mr. Rich, and Walker for your service last year, and I want to announce the committee and liaison assignments for this year. Dr. Blau will chair the Community and Communication Engagement Committee. Also on that committee is Claudia Heinrich and whoever our new Board of Education member is. Mrs. Heinrich will chair the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting, and also on that committee is Angie Smith and whoever the new board member is, and or myself. On the policy committee, we have not made any changes to the policy committee representatives. Donald Walker continues to be the chair. I serve on that committee as well as Mabel Fox, and the reason for that is because we're doing a lot of great work there and we want to keep the momentum up. There are a lot of things in play, and so we want to keep that committee steady for at least the next year. Donald Walker is the diversity and inclusion representative. Mabel Fox is the FAPN liaison. I am the Head Start representative. I'm sorry, I messed that up. No, that's right. Dr. Blau is the legislative liaison. Mrs. Heinrich is the Oakland County School Boards Association liaison. Mrs. Heinrich is the Farmington Area PTA Council representative. I am the Student Council representative. Dr. Blau is the Education Foundation representative, and Mrs. Smith is the Youth and Family Services representative. Thank you in advance for your service there. As far as board goals are related, we have talked about this a bit. These are not firm, but so far this is what we've come up with. I know we all recognize that we can do a few things very well, or we can stretch ourselves and do 15 things poorly. So in contemplating these goals, we're considering not only what's been top of mind for me, but what we've heard from staff, from my board colleagues, and most importantly, through an extensive amount of training in order to ensure the board is governing at the optimal level. We're focused on 4 areas, and we will be developing key performance indicators over the next few weeks across each of these to be sure we're measuring ourselves on a regular basis. These are currently in draft, but in the interest of transparency, I'm sharing current thoughts and look forward to feedback from my colleagues over the course of the next few weeks. The first goal is around student achievement. We want FPS students to experience significant growth gains. We want programs implemented with fidelity, and we want policies focused on achievement and equity. We look to develop a strategic planning 5-year district dashboard, developing goals for innovation, professional learning, equity, and social emotional learning by September 30th. We want to communicate on our district website the progress on our goals at least twice per year. We're going to define growth and proficiency targets by the end of the fall, and we're going to develop a strategy to reach stretch goals of being a top 10 district by 2030. We want to further develop programming for high-achieving students, and we want to advance work on what schools could be that initiative. The second goal is related to ensuring resources are aligned and to the board and district priority goals. There, we want to align financial and human resources to priority areas. We want funding identified for student supports, for example, tutoring. We want to make sure that the district has a long-term plan for facilities, and we want to remain fiscally sound. The third goal is around board development and governance. We want to make sure that the board is accountability driven. We want to spend more time on policies to improve student achievement rather than operational issues. And we want to make sure that the board takes part in team development and training. We're also going to align the board goals to superintendent goals and establish board protocols. And finally, we want to cultivate a good climate culture within our school community. We want to make sure our community feels heard, the staff feel valued, and that the district has a good reputation across political, business, and taxpayer community groups. We want to adopt a practice of responding to all correspondence within 24 to 48 hours. We want to continue community engagement, conduct satisfaction surveys, and I'm very proud to announce that our latest Cobalt survey showed that 80% of our parent community is more than satisfied with Farmington Public Schools, which is a great result. So we'll look to continue that positive trend. We want to host restorative practices for our special groups and populations, including, but not limited to, FAPN, the Palestine community, the Jewish communities, and we want to evaluate policies, particularly around DEI, racial slurs, and student behavior. I know that was long-winded, but I think that that's very important to share with our community what we're planning to be focused on. Finally, there is a MASB Delegate Assembly. It is the annual meeting that will be held in October. The assembly is made up of at least one voting delegate from each school district in the state. We have until Friday, October 4th to certify our delegate, and so sometime in September, we will be, you'll see this on the agenda. If anyone is interested in being a MASB delegate, please let me know. I know Mrs. Heinrich has served in the past, and I appreciate that. I may be able to serve, but that is also the weekend of homecoming, and I have a senior this year, so I will not be at the conference physically. I will be participating virtually. That wasn't finally, that was penultimate. The final announcement that I have is that we will have a board candidate meeting. We're targeting right now August 26th. I realize that is the first day of school, but it is the only time that our facilitator is available. We are considering hosting a session with prospective board members, similar to a couple of years ago, to help folks understand board service and to be able to ask questions. We're thinking about an hour, hour and a half, mostly of discussion after a presentation from hosted by the Michigan Association of School Boards. That ends my announcements. I know you guys are very glad to hear that. All right, now we have our first round of public comment. You're welcome. For adding this additional public comment at the beginning of the meeting. At this time, we do ask that you limit your public comment to one, either this public comments section or the second one that we have, which occurs after discussion items. This is one opportunity, but we offer it 2 times in the agenda for one opportunity for public comment. Thank you. The first person we have is, well, since you're already standing there, Mr. Greenstein, we have Eugene Greenstein. And you have 3 minutes, sir.
I won't need 3 minutes. I'd like to thank the board for developing what appears to be very realistic, measurable goals. I think that's very important. I've talked about it before. In the case of literacy, I think it's very important that we make sure that our graduating seniors, our high school students who are clearly behind in literacy, that we take whatever actions required that they graduate at grade level literacy. And I don't care how much money it costs.
Thank you. The next person is Tom Neal, who will be followed by Roxanne Ushman.
Hi, my name is Tom Neal, and I'm a co-chair with the Junior Optimist program here in the Farmington Public Schools with Diane Eckloff. She's a retired teacher from Walled Lake Public Schools. Both of us are members of the Farmington Hills Breakfast Optimist Club. Our Junior Optimist program is run to provide leadership development and community engagement for the students in the Farmington Public Schools. We do this through 11 clubs. We have 2 of the high schools, North Farmington and Farmington. We have 4 middle schools, and we have 5 elementary schools. Our program is the largest program in the state of Michigan and one of the largest in the country. As proof of our leadership development, we had co-governors for Michigan last year, and they were from North Farmington High School. It was Hamdan Fasadin and Siri Balaji. They went on to run for national office, international office, this summer at the Junior Optimist Summit down in St. Louis this summer. Siri Balaji was successful in beating out 2 other candidates for a seat as a board member for the Junior Optimist International, which encompasses U.S., Canada, and a number of other countries around the world. Another leadership example is Nuha Abdul Malik from Farmington High School. She was elected as the governor this year for Michigan Junior Optimists, and she's already set up some goals. Sharp gal. I want to basically thank the school administration, the principals, Dr. Delgado, and everybody for the support of our program. It's really allowed us to be successful. I presented that to the national organization in St. Louis about doing it in public schools because we've done a fabulous job thanks to your support. What we ask for you is support of the teachers and the parents who help us do this leadership program and development. And again, that's how we spread optimism through youth, and they're our future leaders of the community. So thank you very much for what you do.
Thank you very much, Mr. Neal. Roxanne Ushman, followed by Kara Bailey. And after that, I do not have any more public comment cards. You're welcome to do your public comment now, or you can do it after discussion items. Ms. Ushman?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm a mother in the district. I have a child currently at Wood Creek Elementary entering the 5th grade. Over the summer, the past 3 weeks, we were notified that there was a fire that happened in the building on the roof, I believe. So they've been diligently working to get this, ready for school so the kids have a safe environment. We were notified a couple days ago by the principal, Mrs. Lewis, that they have not met inspections, and it's not looking all that great for them to start August 26th. I'm here to represent some parents that are here. Kara's here to represent some parents. Our concern is they alluded to an emergency action plan, which you guys spoke of, the emergency E15 plan. We have questions in terms of what that means for our kids. They did speak of virtual, and I'm here to find out what the plan would be and what the emergency plan should be for this situation, because they're not going to be able to start in person. And I know that they discussed a couple alternatives, but we're just here to express our concern with virtual. We have already been through this. My child was in kindergarten when COVID hit, and it was a difficult time for him to come back in person. So all of us have concerns. We do not want it to go to virtual. That is where we're at. If we can avoid that, if this emergency plan is not already set in place, that's that next step, we would like to discuss other ways of keeping our children, in a building, in person. This could be only like a 2-week delay. This could be a week delay. Nobody's giving us any information, but it sounds like we're not going to be starting school on August 26th. So any information that you guys can give us, any guidance, we're just basically here to let you know that that's not going to be the best for our children learning environment and having to deal with it. I personally I work at Visions Unlimited. I will not be home. This is my only child. I will not be there to help him with virtual or take care of him. He's 10 years old. I don't want to leave him in the hands of virtual. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Kara Bailey, followed by Henry Francis.
Hi, I'm also a parent at Wood Creek Elementary. I have 2 kids there in 5th and 3rd grade. So especially my 5th grader did go through virtual schooling during COVID. It doesn't work for elementary school kids. It really doesn't. His entire class is basically in math and reading intervention in some way, because they were the ones most affected by it. They didn't get the reading skills that they were supposed to get. They didn't get the math skills they were supposed to get. They spent almost an entire year on virtual. So not focusing as much on the parents, because it's a burden to us too. I'm a working parent, so is my husband. Luckily, he works from home, so we're probably not as burdened as some parents out there. But we have to remember that these are elementary school kids. They can't stay home by themselves. And they also get very distracted. I mean, even my 10-year-old who's in 5th grade is going to be on YouTube videos while he's talking to his teacher. We can't monitor that every second of the day. Additionally, I would like to talk a little bit about the non-transparency that we've gotten from our administration at the school regarding this. Yes, we've gotten about weekly updates on the building repairs, but they've been very vague. We're waiting on inspectors, but when are those inspectors going to come? Have we done our work? Like, are we just waiting on them, or is there going to be more work that needs to be done? These would all give the parents a better idea of what to expect going forward. Is virtual or partial reopening or another building, is that a real possibility, or is it something we're throwing out there just in case we don't pass inspection? I personally dealt with this with the daycare that flooded for my kids, and I know inspections get delayed and delayed. I know there's not a lot of control over that, and I appreciate that probably more than some parents. But you've also got parents who are willing to help. We're not being involved in this process and decision-making at all. We're getting emails. We're not being asked for help. I have tried calling the school today. Nobody has told us how to reach the administration. I've sent emails. They go unresponded. We get mass emails occasionally, but we do not get our individual emails replied to. So it is really frustrating because we do not know what to expect. We are working parents. Our kids have seen these pictures. They're wondering how the school year is going to start. They're listening to us talk, and we don't have answers for them. So to add on to what Roxanne talked about, I want to add on to about the transparency and lack thereof that's going on at the school level at this point.
Thank you.
Yep.
Henry Francis, and then the Hoffman family.
All right. First off, I'd like to say welcome to Mr. Turner and Dr. Coffin. Good to have you both on the board. Looking forward to having you guys here for the next couple months. With that in mind, I'm also here to advocate a little bit on the side of the robotics team. As you know, I have been in here a lot advocating for a STEM facility, but this time around I would more so like to just point towards the overall goal of looking for a superintendent this fall who is very STEM oriented. As you may already know, Dr. Delgado was very supportive of the hackbots and our STEM goals in the community. He attended multiple events with us, and we were very thankful to have his support. I worry in the future if the decision is not made to have a STEM supportive superintendent, that it may have ultimately negative impacts on the robotics team, especially since if we look at our numbers of who's graduating and who's going into careers, the robotics team and people who do STEM classes at our schools have some of the best numbers that you'll find. And you know, I can name from experience a few people. One of them is my sister. She was on the robotics team. She had a wonderful time, and I think if we didn't have district support, she may never have gotten involved, and I can't even imagine where her life would be right now, because that's really what catapulted her into her career. So I think it's very, very important for the students that we do have those options and we do have that support available for these programs, because it's not only an investment into a superintendent, it's an investment into the students' futures and the generations of students that will come after them. I don't need the full 3 minutes, so I guess, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the Hoffman family, I apologize, followed by Megan Bolster, and then followed by Erica White. After that, I have no more public comment forums. If anyone is interested, please put your card in the box. I noticed that these are all related to, there's a theme here. We hear you, and we look forward to having that discussion later on today, but I'd like to hear from you now, representing the Hoffman family.
Thank you. I want to thank you for the time. It's my first time being here. Excited to see how this process goes. Honestly, I'm here to talk about Wood Creek, but very, I think, briefly. I just really want to escalate to you. I know it may not be your decision, but somebody holds the decision here, and I want to escalate the urgency for this. We are less than 2 weeks out from the start of school, and parents have no idea what to expect. I think we've been very patient to this point in waiting and understanding there's a process that, you know, we want to wait as long as possible to have the inspection to optimize the chances of passing inspection. I completely understand that. But the communication and what to expect, and are our kids even going to go to school, like, we are at the decisioning time. and something needs to be shared or something needs to be escalated to those that hold that decision-making power so that we know what's going on. That is all, brief. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Megan Bolstler.
Hi, thank you all. My name is Megan Bolsler. I am also a Wood Creek parent. I have 3 kids, the oldest of which is starting first grade this year. And my concern also is about remote learning. In addition to what everyone else has already stated, one of my concerns in general with having an option for remote learning in emergency planning is that I'd really like to encourage you all to think about really clear parameters, including time limits and definitions on what is considered an emergency that can allow the school to go to remote learning. It's a very weighty decision, and it really does come with costs to the community, students, and parents, and I'm sure the staff has their own concerns that I won't try to speak on their behalf. But I don't think that this is something that should be taken lightly or entered into in a way where it is indefinite in duration. That's my concern, in particular with Wood Creek, but it would apply to any kind of instance of emergency, whether it's a flood, mold, fire. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's entered into lightly whenever there's any kind of issue, without really clearly limiting when and how long we're going to use remote learning, one day is very different to me than if we're going to start this with no clear end. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final card that I have is Erica White. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good to see you, Mr. Turner. Good to see everyone. So my name is Erica White. I'm also a parent at Wood Creek, so I won't belabor too long, but just want to reemphasize essentially everything all the other parents have said. I think we're frustrated because there doesn't seem to be a lot of transparency in the communications. There's not clear communication. It just leaves people more frustrated and kind of asking more questions and needing more answers. So I think my ask is, after today, I hope that we can, because to me, I would think, well, our goal is to have an answer to you by X date. Like, give us something, you know what I mean, where we can have some certainty or a little bit more confidence that this is being taken seriously, that we'll have some answers soon. But just, want to reiterate and reemphasize everything everyone else said. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have Jennifer Fowler.
Hi, I'm also a Wood Creek parent. I have a student entering 3rd grade at Wood Creek, and we are really on pins and needles on what is going to happen with this year. My daughter was so upset when she learned of the fire, and just following in the emails, we were under the impression the school was going to be ready by the time the school is going to be open. And according to the emails on Monday, that doesn't seem likely, and the possibility of virtual learning has been thrown out there too. And just going back to how that worked with my older child when we were thrown into virtual learning with the pandemic, it just does not work at the elementary level. There's just so much logistics that go into that, and needing a parent present at home to monitor the student. And so many parents work outside the home, and trying to get that some sort of care in place. Like, Y Care was open during the pandemic at the schools. How is that going to be an option this time? That there was Y Care during the day, we had a plan, we could enroll in that. We don't have anything like that. And school is starting in 2 weeks. We need something. That's all I have.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment for the first public comment section of our discussion? Any more public comment? For the 3rd time, is there any more public comment? At this time, we will close public comment. There will be another opportunity for those who have not spoken to speak at the second public comment, which happens after discussion items. We don't usually address public comment, but in this instance, we do happen to have a discussion about Wood Creek on our agenda for today. We became aware of the fire on July 27th, which was about 2 weeks ago. I appreciate, as a former Wood Creek mom myself, the devastation that we all felt when we learned about the fire. I am grateful that no one was hurt or injured. I'm also grateful that it appears that the fire is contained to one side of the building. What I am aware of is that it wasn't until a week ago, obviously, when something like this happens, I mean, this is a disaster. It wasn't until folks got into the building, started cleaning about a week ago, that they realized that maybe some of the damage could have been more extensive than was thought. And as many of you have shared, we can't control the inspection process and what they may find. But we'll get an update today on where things are. I really appreciate hearing the need for some sort of dates, and wherever that's possible, we'll try to make sure that the school district does that where possible. I mean, obviously, we can't do that when we aren't given dates, and we're beholden to others in that situation. But I do hear you on needing to make sure that there's some sort of end game, because no one wants to be in a situation where we've got the potential for virtual school for, an extended period of time. So we hear you, and I look forward to having that discussion later on today. With that said, we will move on now to items from the Secretary. Mrs. Fox?
Yes. The board has received communication, and the board acknowledged communication and response when appropriate. A list of the correspondence can be found in the board packet accessible on the Farmington Public School website.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. Are there any legislative updates?
None at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Blau. We will move now to the Superintendent District update. Dr. Coffin?
Right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, President Weems. First, I would like to thank the Board of Education for appointing me as the interim superintendent. As I begin my 5th year here in Farmington Public Schools, this truly is an honor and a privilege to be able to serve this community. I'm really, really excited about the year that is ahead of us. So I want to talk a little bit about what is going to be happening as we start to bring our staff back prior to our students coming back to school. We welcome 40 new educators at our new staff induction 2-day orientation this week. Staff were welcomed by the cabinet. They spent some time learning more about our mission, our vision, our profile of a lifelong learner, as well as our instructional focus areas. They also received their laptops. They received training on some of the online tools that we used, including our learning management system, Canvas. Throughout those 2 days, they learned from our district leaders about collaborative efforts that are supporting teaching and learning across the district. It's always so exciting to welcome new staff into the FPS family. One of the facilitators was so excited when someone called her out as Ms. Gustafson, because it was her former student. So when we see our former students coming back and now serving in that role, it's pretty exciting. So really exciting, great group of educators joining us. We also will start our Launching Learning Week, and that will be the week of August 19th. We're going to welcome back our staff for the 2024-25 school year. We start with our back-to-school celebration, as you know, at Shiawassee Park. That will be on Monday, the 19th. We will continue then with some building-level professional development, including professional learning around our newly adopted Wit and Wisdom with our elementary groups. Expansion of our project-based learning and New Tech Network at the middle school level, and a day of belonging that is going to be facilitated in partnership with the principals and Mr. Greg Smith. Staying with our instructional focuses of positioning, authenticity, and noticing, we'll welcome our staff on opening day at North Farmington High School and launch the school year with our focus on noticing and belonging. It's going to be an amazing week, And again, I'd like to extend an invitation to the board to join us during that week as you're available, obviously with the back-to-school celebration on Monday from 11 to 1, and then our opening day, which will be Wednesday, or August 21st, from 8 to 10 a.m. at North Farmington. So really excited to start the school year. I also, just one last thing, Dr. Delgado asked that I would share the following message with the board. It's been an honor of my professional career to serve the students, staff, and families of Farmington schools for the last 3 years. I am grateful to the dedicated staff and amazing administrators on our leadership team and leave with confidence that they will maintain our forward momentum and highlight the greatness of FPS. I'm appreciative of our Board of Education for their support, vision, and leadership coming out of COVID and beyond, and similarly confident that they will continue to demonstrate the stability and the professionalism that our community deserves. I stand committed to continuing to support FPS through my new role at Oakland Schools and wish everyone a great start to the 24-25 school year. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and we will certainly miss Dr. Delgado and wish him the best, but he's still around until the end of this month, right? Okay. All right, reports from board committees. Mrs. Heinrich, is there a report from the Finance and Facilities Committee?
Yes, the Finance and Facilities Committee met on Tuesday, August 6th. And we talked about the following items. There was a pre-audit communication. Jenny Colball shared with us the letter of responsibility of the audit and shared that there's 3 phases. There's a preliminary work that was done in April and May. There's a risk assessment that's done in June and July, and then the year-end testing and work on financial statement comes later this year, and the final report will be in October. Our finance department does a good job. We've been highly rated every year, and we expect that to continue. We have a new auditor this year. Jeff Higgins is new this year and is going to be working with Jenny Colball. The next thing that was on the agenda was a new vehicle purchase, and that is a discussion item that Mr. John Barth will be sharing. But basically, they need a new utility truck, and he's going to share the need for that. One of the things that he highlighted that we are purchasing this through the MI deal pricing, and that's through the state of Michigan, and that's available only to schools and government entities, and so there's a savings there. But we'll wait and hear Mr. Barth's report. That was it for the Finance and Facilities Committee.
Thank you, Mrs. Heinrich. We will now move on to discussion items. The first item is the new vehicle purchase. Mr. Barth?
Good evening, board members, and Dr. Coffin, congratulations, and welcome to our new board member. Facilities Management is recommending the purchase of a new vehicle. This vehicle would be a utility truck used by our skilled maintenance group. Currently, the vehicle that one of our maintenance persons is using is a 2008 Ford F-350, which is subjected to the rust you see on the screen right now. It's devastating to our vehicles, even though we wash them after every use. They're used as plow trucks, so they get salt all over them. So in the process of the last 16 years, vehicles rust. We know that in Michigan. So if you take the next slide, you can see some of the damage done by salt. And in this particular vehicle, the issue is, it brought to my attention because he drives this vehicle daily. And what's happening now is because the utility truck is rusting, the liftgate in back, the boxes on the side are opening while he's driving. It's to that point. So we want to retire this truck and purchase a new one. Now keep in mind, we have 30 vehicles in our fleet. The average age is 2012. We have some new ones that were bought with the board. Thankfully gave us some new vehicles back in 2019, some Dodge Ram ProMaster trucks, and they're fine. They need some repairs, but they're fine. they will be subjected to rust over time. So when we talked to the Finance Facility Committee, we also discussed the need for a vehicle replacement schedule down the road, which we could possibly use the bus purchase fund for. But in this case, we're going to use general fund dollars. If you want to advance to the next couple of slides, you can see sort of the damage to the trucks. This is the floorboard underneath. It's basically rusting through. And this happens in Michigan. We expect this to happen, obviously, over time. But you can put your fist through that floor. So we really want to get this truck off the road right now. We do have an opportunity through Todd Wenzel to purchase a new vehicle, which are sort of hard to come by right now, with My Deal pricing. So the My Deal allows us to get 25% off the cost of a new one. So instead of $81,000, it'd be $61,000. That's for a loaded F-350 Silverado. So it's a very nice truck. It'll be used as a plow truck as well. We see it as a great opportunity to start the process of replacing vehicles. Last couple of years, we bought a couple of used vehicles, newer used vehicles through our budget that have served us well, but we're actually trying to get the ones that are 2004 to 2008 off the road, which serves the district. I mean, they really shouldn't be on the road anymore. They're just to that point. Keep in mind, these vehicles don't have a ton of miles. They've got generally around 100,000 miles, but just rust over time just takes these vehicles out of service. So with your approval, we'll push this forward for purchase order. Again, My Deal pricing, $61,000 and change, but looking forward to maybe replacing some additional vehicles in the future. Questions?
Ms. Smith?
So help me to understand this. When you turn the corner in that truck, there is no lock to hold in any of the equipment. So when a turn happens, we have equipment falling out?
So what's happening is because the hinges and locks are rusting, which is what happens along the edges of a truck bed utility box like that, they tend to open. I mean, they're no longer being held together by anything. We've taped them shut, believe it or not. Our guys have taped them shut to drive somewhere. So, and we don't have spare vehicles to use. So that's the issue, is that we're having to use the vehicles. We have not had a major accident. We haven't had tools drop out. However, he has had tools fall out coming into the lot when he turned a corner. So It does happen.
And my second question is, are you stopping that truck with your feet? Look at what's going on in the bottom of that. Could somebody go back to that next? Yes, this is a danger to not only to the driver of this district, but to people in the community. This is dangerous. And then the fact that we may get somebody to turn quick and we lose a couple of, pieces of equipment. You might have people getting out their cars trying to take whatever you got in there, or having somebody get out of the truck and then their lives are in danger. Why haven't we seen this earlier on to help get this situation taken care of?
I'll put it this way. This is probably the better of the worst trucks. Some of our trucks were retired last year. They sit in the back of the lot to be sold. Whatever's going to happen to them, we don't know. We've taken them off. This one has been taken off the road. So he no longer drives this truck. But that leaves us with one less truck to use, especially during plow season, which is coming up. So that's the big issue. We can get a truck before winter sets in. We're in great shape. We'll survive. But this truck is off the road right now. It's sitting in the back of our lot. So it won't be a danger.
Thank you.
I did have a question. I mean, clearly this, especially the bed or the cart is in very poor condition, and the vehicle is 16 years old, so I don't have a problem with that. I did wonder whether there had been any discussion about replacing the bed and the cart only, as opposed to the whole truck. And first question. And second question is, how many of there are 30 in the fleet, how many of them are like retired? And if there are more that need to be retired, why aren't we replacing more? Why are we just doing one?
Right. We have done some truck bed replacement since I've been here. Trucks that couldn't carry their plow, their salt dog, the spreaders in the back anymore, so we had to. The frames were rusted out. It can be upwards of $20,000 to replace a bed, depending how bad it is. And to Angie's mention of what the condition is currently, this is frames rusting out underneath. And if you had a car that old and you're in Michigan, you don't garage keep it, you don't keep it washed, it's what's going to happen. We do keep our vehicles washed, but because they carry so much salt in the back, because they're plowing salt and snow in the wintertime, you can't get all that stuff off, so over time they rust. So we have right now 3 vehicles sitting in back, 2 of which have gotten new beds. We're still using them, but only if we have to during the snow season. So again, we retired what we could, but we're to the point now where we have to think about a replacement schedule. I met with Chris on this, Chris and Jennifer. They're agreeable to set up some kind of replacement schedule, like 2 per year, until we get sort of back up to speed. Also, they're giving us additional funds to do vehicle repairs, like a new bed if we have to. So they've been very positive with this, but we feel it's a good time now to at least get this vehicle off the road and get a new vehicle.
Thank you. Dr. Turner?
Thank you. Just a question as it relates to the fleet that is still in service. Is there a consideration to perhaps treat the beds or cover the beds with a plastic coating or something to abate the erosion?
So we looked into that too. So the beds themselves have a rubber or plastic bed, you know what a truck bed is, and that helps some with the salt and the salt spreader in the back. However, over time, they're salting, they're plowing. Unless you get that coated, it would have to be done several times a year to coat underneath. It's still going to rust out. I dealt with that with a personal vehicle. So that's not really an answer because in Michigan it doesn't help that much. However, if you can keep them washed, if you keep the underside washed, again, we don't have an underside truck wash. I mean, we don't. Even in busing, we don't. So it'd be nice to have that, but in the meantime, we do with what we got. So we do get them washed, and then we'll take them through a car wash in the wintertime. However, you can't keep that salt off, especially over 16 to 20 years. It's gonna add up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yeah, no, just point out, this is a 16-year-old vehicle, so that's a pretty good life for the vehicle. Yeah, I mean, and I like the fact that we're, trying to get a plan for a replacement schedule to keep things active. And this is a discussion item on this agenda, and the next meeting it will be an action item.
Correct.
Thank you. Mrs. Smith?
Is there any way that we could replace more than just one to help? I mean, I'm a little disturbed by what I'm seeing. I mean, 16 years, okay, that's if you're frugal. I don't do 16 years in a vehicle, and especially when it comes down to the safety and the well-being of others. And I'm just a little disturbed by what I'm looking at right now, coming from a premier district.
Yeah, we actually have vehicles that date older than that, 2004. Those are 20 years old, that are in similar condition, not quite as bad as this truck. However, they're getting bad as well. So to answer your question, I know that Jennifer and Chris talked about that. This is being taken out of funds that we currently have in the general fund in our department. It'd be nice to tap into other funds, but she mentioned there's a bus purchase replacement fund that may be available. Right now, we've got one vehicle available to us, so we want to get that vehicle as quick as we can.
And you need that vehicle for all the schools, correct?
So all the schools, it's plowing this winter. We got plows ordered, and it'll be outfitted with that. It's a big, strong truck, but it's also a utility truck, so it's got the boxes that we need, so.
I'm kind of like my person over here. I just can't believe that we have something like this. Can you tell me what does the insurance, do you have insurance, and do they see this kind of stuff to have insurance with it?
We do not have to pass like a bus inspection with the state. It's a vehicle. So we have a mechanic on site who's very skilled at this stuff. He's the one that comes to me and says, John, this truck's got trouble. He's coming numerous times about these old trucks, and this is the first, not second time that we've actually gone and replaced a truck. So we have a mechanic that looks at it, that's skilled at assessing what the truck's condition is safety-wise. We're not under any legal obligation to take a car off or take a vehicle off the road like buses are. Now remember, buses are retired after 10 years. We have vehicles at 20 years. So it's time to start thinking about a replacement schedule for these vehicles.
So I guess, might we ask that the Finance and Facilities Committee take that back and evaluate and review the plan that the district has to turn over its fleet? Thank you, and we can maybe add that to the committee list that we were preparing for each of the committees, remember, of what we wanted to tackle or think about the goals for each of the committees this year. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Barton. We will now move to the Alumni Pathways Project. Dr. Coffin?
Yes, so the board has information in your packets around the Alumni Pathways Project, the intergovernmental agreement for the alumni pathways. As you are all aware, Dr. Delgado served on as the chair of the K-12 Career Readiness Committee for the Oakland County Superintendents Association. So the committee has been working in partnership with Oakland Schools and a vendor called Lightcast to be part of this alumni project pathway. What this allows is for the district to receive data reports provided by Lightcast to see, give us detailed insights about where our students, what they choose to do post-high school. We already have access to certain databases, but this allows and gives more supplemental over a 10-year period so we can see where our students, what career choices they make. We are so fortunate here in Farmington to have multiple CTE pathways available. And so this information really is going to help us make better decisions on knowing what our students are choosing for career paths, as well as what programs and services we should be offering, not only here in Farmington, but at Oakland Schools and their programs as well. So it is on the agenda today, both as a discussion and an action, in part because it needs to be returned back to Oakland Schools this month.
Thank you. Any questions on this matter?
I just wanted to say that a few years ago when Dr. Delgado and I were in Orlando at the NSBA conference, we started having some conversations about this. We saw some vendors at the expo that had some of these kinds of products available. And I know that it's something that's been on our radar for the last several years. So it's very exciting that Oakland Schools has taken this up and that we as a district are going to have access to this kind of a resource and this kind of data about our graduates without a cost to us.
Mrs. Heinrich?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I've been asking to track our graduates since I've been on the board, and I know that they're not doing it because I've asked for it. But one of the things that I'm interested in, like you said, what are the students for CTE and what careers are they going into? Are they successful? Are we tracking the students that go to college? Because one of the questions is if they enroll in college, are they successful in college? Do they graduate? In 4 years or 5 years or whatever their program is. And I'm going to ask, one of the things I'll be asking for the district is, what are we going to do with this information? And how are we going to take that and filter it back to our teachers and our staff, especially in the high school level? I'm just looking for more of a partnership of working with the colleges and the community colleges to see how our students are prepared. I mean, number one, we're getting them into college, but number two, how are they doing when they get there? So I'm hoping that it's going to open the door for conversations to make sure that our students are prepared to be successful, because that's what our commitment is of this work that you've been doing for 5 years since you've been here, as far as our profile of a lifelong learner and our promise that we're going to give you choices, but we want you to know that if you're accepted in this program, that you have the tools and the skills to be successful in that. So I think that's going to be a great partnership. So I'm excited that we're doing this and looking for, regular reports and adding it to our district goals as far as student achievement. So it's not just within our buildings, but student achievement beyond when they leave. Successful in life.
Mr. Walker.
This data is so critical and is so important because what it will also tell us is not just where our kids are going and what they do after they get there, but it's also going to help lift up the narrative that there's more than one way to success. It'll lift up the narrative that a career technical education, certification, stackable credentials is equally as important and successful as a student who graduates with a 4-year degree from X institution, or a student who goes on to community college, puts in 2 years, gets an associate and certifications from there, and then moves on to college. It just lets our students know that the pathway to success is not a straight line. That is very critical to me. As far as getting that information back. And likewise, that level of data also will not only drive the kind of curriculum and curriculum forming that we will be doing, perhaps on our high schools, down to our middle schools, but one of the major things that I hear from employers and career technical education programs in my work across the nation is those soft skills, those people skills. The more we find out those kinds of businesses and career opportunities that need those kinds of intangibles, we can begin to think about how strategically can those things be worked into what we're teaching our kids at the same time, which ultimately starts to speak to that one question kids tend to ask all the time about when they're in school is, why do I need to know this? And if we can start to factor that into what's happening on our K-12 arc, we're doing an awful lot to really impact student engagement. So this is fantastic.
Ms. Smith?
To piggyback off of Mr. Walker, I think he's on to something really good. What I like about this is after you find out where these students have gone in their successions, or if they've had some hiccups, it will help this community, this school community, to know what we need to put in place where we may have had a hiccup. So, for example, ELA, if they're struggling at the high school, at the college level, whether it's community or university, then we would know what we need to do here to bring up what needs to be done and help in our area. So it's a partnership with both the universities, community colleges, or CTE, whatever, and then that will come back and help us, know what we need to be doing as well.
Thank you all. I agree. I am really ecstatic, actually, that we're going to be able to start understanding where our graduates are going. I think, we've all said it. We've been asking that question for at least the past few years. I'm really interested in understanding when we'll start to get data and how we factor that into our data reviews over the course of the next few years, where that falls. And I'm also interested in understanding, I think someone else made the point about how we leverage that data, not just us, but our school community does. I'm really looking forward to advancing the work of our counselors beyond scheduling to actually being career advisors. And this data will certainly help us do that. So I thank Dr. Delgado and Dr. Blau for bringing this to us, and I'm not sure why we would vote no on something that doesn't cost us anything and has given us great data, so it seems really good. Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, we will move on to policy. Mr. Walker, I did this like 3 or 4 times today. I'm sorry.
I'm receiving every positive thought about being a doctor or having my doctorate that anybody wants to throw in my direction, so thank you. Relative to the policy update, as you know, from towards the end of the last school year, the Title IX updates were supposed to be provided to us. However, there was a huge delay in those Title IX recommendations and updates being brought forth. It went past our last policy meeting, and the updates actually arrived a couple of days before our last school board meeting. So with that, we did get a number of additional revisions and updates recommended by Miller Johnson, our policy service provider. A total of 8 recommendations have been given to us, 3 of which are very timely. We need to have those done before the start of the school year, and those are the 3 that I'm bringing forth tonight for reading and recommendation. The other 5 remaining ones I'd like to take back to the committee. There's some more discussion and there's some deeper elements that need to be vetted out and then brought back before this board for discussion before we push this into any kind of vote, especially some as they relate to some parental responsibilities or opportunities. So I really want us to have a conversation about that at multiple levels. So the policies that are going to be recommended for an action item later on this evening are threefold. The first one is policy 2007, which is the Cardiac Emergency Response Plan. The Michigan legislature passed several bills that require amendments to the school district's Cardiac Emergency Response Plan policy for the 2025-2026 school year. We're getting ahead on that particular recommendation for this policy change to take place now. The revisions that have been brought forth for the policy plans are being read as follows. The purpose of this policy is to comply with Sections 19 and 19B of the Fire Prevention Code and Sections 13, 19 of the Revised School Code. The superintendent will develop and implement regulations that will enable school districts to offer an appropriate response in the event of a cardiac emergency. These procedures will address, at minimum, the use and regular maintenance of automated external defibrillators located throughout the school's campuses and athletic facilities. The establishment and activation of a cardiac emergency response team in the event of an identified cardiac emergency and integration of the cardiac emergency response team with the local emergency response agencies and system. The methods for effective and efficient communication in the building or outside area with the emergency, when the emergency arises. A legally compliant training plan for the use of automated external defibrillators and cardiopulmonary resuscitation techniques. And the superintendent will periodically evaluate the school district's cardiac emergency response procedure and report the evaluation results to the board. Those are the updates specific to this particular policy. I wanted to give us an opportunity for any comment or discussion around that before I moved on to the next one. Okay. That being said, the next policy is Policy 1004, conflict between policy and administrative regulations. This is just to codify the existing board practice, the existing board policy, that supersedes, that board policy supersedes any administrative regulations which conflicts with such policy. So the change reads as follows. In the event of a conflict between board-approved policies and administrative regulations, the board-approved policy will prevail. Any discussion around that particular policy? We're really just codifying what we would do regularly anyway.
This is on page 133 in our board.
The next one, if there's no discussion, the next one is Policy 8007, discrimination and harassment. This is that Title IX policy update that came forth around towards the end of June. The changes are as follows. The Board of Education is committed to maintaining a learning working environment in which all individuals are treated with dignity and respect, free from discrimination and harassment based on a legally prohibited characteristic. The district here's where the change comes in. The district does not discriminate and prohibits discrimination or harassment in any program or activity that it operates, including in admission and employment, and is required by Title IX and other applicable law on the basis of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, including sexual orientation and gender identity and expression, marital status, pregnancy status, genetic information, disability, age, or any other bias prohibited by law. The superintendent will develop an administrative regulation to implement this policy. The superintendent designates, in this particular case, it would be Chris O'Brien, who's over Title IX, as I understand it, to supervise the implementation of this policy and its implementing regulations. So that is one that we will vote on being changed this evening. I do want to take a moment and lift up that this particular policy and its language is reflected in some of the incidents that we unfortunately had to go through on last year and is still under development for greater detail, laying out some of the items and some of the examples as noted more generally in this policy. We've gone through numerous steps that have been talked about in previous meetings, but I'm happy to update anybody who needs that information at whatever time. The next phase of this policy review and communication is hopefully going to be taking place with another level of staff as we move towards the school year, but specifically you need to engage the community to have some general discussion around this particular policy, get their feedback before we put any language together. I want to stress emphatically, at any point in time, we can create policy. The question always has to be asked with diligence is the policy that we create, are we in a position to actually enforce it? Do we have the wherewithal to actually enforce it? To put policy in place and not have any enforcement behind it is putting just words on a piece of paper and making us take a step back in the kind of safe environment or the kind of culture we hope to cultivate here at FPS, and that is my motivating and driving concern. And the last policy that will be voted on tonight, if the board considers it, is around digital communication. It's policy 8009. The new section, which is entitled Social Media Authorizations, limits the reach of the Supreme Court case by withholding authority to speak on behalf of the school district by school employees on their personal social media accounts. And so the policy that will be voted on regarding that is as follows. Regarding personal social media authorizations, the Board of Education does not authorize the use of personal social media to speak on the school district's behalf. The superintendent may designate social media accounts as district social media, which may be used for official school district communications. The superintendent may develop and implement administrative regulations to carry out this policy. I believe that was noted earlier by Mrs. Weems in her opening address. We are looking to put that with a vote into policy. And that is your update.
Any questions on this? These matters will come as an action item, and generally, we like to have a first reading of policy and then vote at a separate second meeting. In this case, as Mr. Walker explained, we didn't receive these policy updates from the board's attorney until late in last school year, which didn't give us an opportunity to act. And there are several suggested updates to policy. The suggestion is to only act on those that rise to the level of requiring to be changed because of law. Like in one instance, there were 2 bills which were passed, which make our current board policies, not in accordance with law. So we should clearly address those before the start of the year. In other cases, it's important to make certain things clear, to have a cardiac arrest policy in place before the beginning of the year. So we do have the authority to waive a second reading, and we're doing that in this instance, but I just wanted to make sure that the public understood that generally speaking, we would have these over 2 meetings, but we're going to pull out 4 of the recommendations that we think really ought to be in place before the beginning of the school year for us to act on today. All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Walker. We will now move to item D, which is the Emergency 15 Plan, which many of you are interested in. Dr. Coffin?
Thank you. Thank you, President Weems. So the board has information in their packet regarding the Emergency 15 Plan, or the E15 Plan. This plan can be approved by the board to allow the district to switch to virtual instruction in the event of circumstances that are beyond their control. The plan allows for up to 15 days of virtual instruction that counts towards days of instruction. As everyone is aware, we have a number of clock hours and days that we have to meet, and there's only certain times we can count those. Excuse me. I think to President Weems' point earlier in another conversation, this doesn't mean that it's virtual for the whole year. It's not a long-term, it's a short-term option that we would have available if the board chooses to approve this in the event to make additional arrangements. Many districts approve this, an Emergency 15 Plan that can be implemented throughout the school year. So while we know we have a situation in one of our elementaries, this is district-wide. And so if something were to happen at any point during the school year and we needed to move to virtual instruction, there's a plan of how we would do that. Again, only for very short-term times to be able to count for days of instruction. Absent of having options to have virtual days, we have 6 days that we have that are considered days that we can be forgiven. We can request another 3. That still doesn't give us very many days to be able to work with. And then in that event, our choice is to extend the school year farther into the summer because we will be required to make up those days or lose funding for those days. So in bringing this plan to the board this evening, it's certainly an absolute last resort. This isn't saying that we are looking at going virtual, specifically in the Wood Creek situation. It just means that we're doing our due diligence to have all the options available to us in case something happens that's out of our control. Again, this would just give us another option if that was what we wanted to do. As mentioned earlier, we heard some of the comments. You know, we were devastated by the fire at Wood Creek. As we have been working through the cleaning process, we have discovered there were there's a need to have a structural engineer come and inspect that. We also have to have multiple state inspections, and so I know Mr. Barth and his team is working day and night to make sure our permits are in and that we're getting people here to try to get these approvals done. As of right now, we don't know yet if we can even open the building partially or at all. And so that's why this has been brought to the board, as it does have to be approved before we start school. So that's one of the requirements. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions. But I want to make sure that I'm being clear, this is not the plan. This is giving us an option in the event we must do something in the short term to find a more long-term solution.
I am, for one, very happy to hear you say this is not the plan. It is an option in the event that after exploring multiple options, in the event that you are unable to identify, in the event the building is not permitted to be open, in the event the building is not permitted to be open even partially, in the event we are not able to identify other space, in the event the decision is made not to delay the start of school at the expense of tacking on additional time into June to make it a full school year, that this is an option that would cap the amount of virtual days to 15.
Correct.
Okay. I can't find that in the board packet. Is it in the board packet?
It is. It is.
What page is it on?
It's down under, it's under discussion items, right underneath policy _AR updates. I'm looking at the quick view.
A couple of items were listed twice in the board packet, so
I have it as page 80, it's 84. If you have the full thing, I don't know what view you're in.
So it's page 84?
Yeah. Dr. Coffin, would you mind kind of explaining what's happened since July 27th so that folks in the room maybe have a better understanding of what's gone on and what we have yet to do?
Absolutely, and I might have to refer to Mr. Barth to help me out on anything that I'm missing. So immediately when we heard of the fire, we recognized that the damage, while it was contained to one wing of the building, so it was our school cafeteria, the gymnasium, our music room, and then 2 of our kindergarten classrooms. The fire and the smoke smell was throughout the building, but truly it was the water in putting out the fire that created the most damage. Mr. Barth and his team immediately called in a company to start the cleaning process. Since that time, they have everything is cleaned, everything is inventoried. We expect to get that list early this week to be able to start to replace that. Ms. Kaminsky's been working with our music department and our PE department to get things ordered, so we have it all ready for the start of a school year. Many of our departments and other buildings are loaning things to the teachers, in the event that we're willing to start. So we will be ready to start that way. Much of the materials were completely destroyed. So we do have a list of the books that were damaged and had to be thrown out, so we are working to order those as well. So we are doing everything on our part to be ready to be opened. If I, like right at this moment, if we are permitted partial occupancy, we will be able to come and be in person. So we do that. I've talked with Ms. Lewis. We have a plan that we would be able to do that. Each day, I know Mr. Barth and I are communicating on a regular basis on where we're at with the permits. I do know that the architect, as required to come in, did review the information and did share with the state his report. And so we're waiting for that to be approved along with some other occupancy, our electrical inspection. Where the fire happened to be was where the generator was, so the switch. Fortunately, we had an extra switch from North Farmington that we could replace that, so that is expediting our ability to be able to have it approved. So we're doing everything on our end to do that, and I know John and the other people that are working with us are also constantly connecting with the state to make sure that we'll do everything we can to get this approved. We don't believe it'll be a full occupancy. I think there is a lot of work that must be done in that area to ensure that it's structurally sound, but we do have some hope that we can get in there partially. If we couldn't, this emergency plan, as an example used for Wood Creek, would give us a little bit of time to be able to figure out what we would need to do.
I have Ms. Smith and then Dr. Turner.
Dr. Coffin, if you would be so kind, I know you've got all of this to deal with, just getting this position. Would you be able, we had all these parents come and share their concerns of their littles starting school and a lack of communication. If there's any way that you can continue to reach out to those parents and let them know what needs to be done or what's being done. If it means, well, we get new carpet today, or, we had some vacuum cleaners come in. Whatever it is, the parents need to know what's going on to let them know that, there's a process and that you're working with them to get their students in school. Okay, thank you. And if you need help, to have somebody come in and help do whatever, I'd be willing to
Yeah,
volunteer
that's a good
that
point.
time.
The building is closed to staff right now. Nobody can go in, of course, until they understand the damage that is there. But yes, we definitely can do that.
Thank you.
Dr. Turner?
Actually, I'm going to reserve my questions for a little bit later. Thank you.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yeah, I'm just looking at this. So I just need to separate this into two parts. Number one, this emergency E15 plan is an emergency plan district-wide. It's not specific to Wooddale. It sounds like Wooddale was a catalyst. Wood Creek, I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay, so it sounds like maybe Wood Creek was a catalyst to say, oh, we don't have this in place, and it's something that we probably should have had in place before this happened. Okay, so whether we approve or disapprove, this emergency E15 plan has not tied to what's going on at Wood Creek. Okay, so the second thing, Wood Creek is one of those things that we don't plan for, but in today's world, tornadoes come through and rip roofs off buildings, floods happen. We didn't prepare for the global pandemic in 2020. You had to figure out what to do. So we have all of that experience. We have emergency plans in place. It just sounds like there's a lot of smart people in this district, and we don't want to necessarily take the easy way out. And I'm just referencing back, this goes back when Hillside was being built. My kids were at Flanders, and they figured out that Hillside wasn't going to be done before the school year opened, and the district had a plan because there were, Hillside students were at Flanders with my kids, so the district had a plan to start the school year. And so I'm using that as an example to say there's some concerns that we've heard as far as lack of communication. And it's frustrating because I know, working with contractors and things like that, sometimes there isn't good communication because there isn't information to communicate. But maybe the communication needs to be, we're hounding these people and, there isn't information to communicate. But I really think that we need to task the district to look and see how can we meet the needs of all the families and offer some options. And not, because it's it's not the entire district, it's a small one building, but some families are impacted different ways. Some families are fine with virtual, some families aren't, things like that. So really, I just want to challenge the district to really be creative and, make sure that we meet the needs of all the families and listen to, so what are they needed, and offering a variety of solutions on how to get this. It's going to be short term, but how can we best meet the needs of, because isn't that what our mission and value is? I mean, look at everything we say, and it's like, all of our students are not unique. They all have unique needs, and every family in this school is not unique. They all have unique needs, and so look at how we can meet these needs for each individual and find the best fit in the short term. And it's not easy, but we didn't sign up for easy.
Thank you. Dr. Turner?
Thank you. And my comments are kind of juxtaposed between Mr. Smith and Ms. Heinrichs, but we have a finite timeline before school starts. So my question is pretty much predicated around what would our communication strategy look like should E15 should it pass, and should it need to be engaged? Because school is set to start. We don't meet again as a board, I believe, until September 10th. So there will need to be some strategy in place for the parents preparing to do something, whether it's start at Wood Creek or start somewhere else. So typically, and it's just my project management side of me coming out, there's a go or no-go date.
Yep.
Where there has to be something to the parents so they can plan for what that first day looks like. Whether it's virtual, whether it's whatever it is, but they need something, because otherwise, without that planning in place, we'll have a room full of folks somewhere anticipating what happens with their children.
So great, that's a great point, and that's what we've been working on. This is the first step of that, to see what options are on the table. And so this was the first step in that. We do know we must make a decision this week.
Okay.
And we are going to work every single day to figure that out. And, and again, hearing from the families today, we need to communicate every single day on what we know, so that people can start to plan. We understand we want to open. We want this to be there. We had every intention of that happening until we figured out there was more damage than we had once thought. And so, but this week we must make a decision, and we'll.
Mr. Walker, and then Mrs. Fox.
And yes, as a part of the communication strategy, can we also lift up what we're going to do in terms, especially if we're not able to get the students back into school, and even if we were, as I understand, the cafeteria is one of the damaged areas. So some of our families do rely on the resources of the school that extend far beyond just the classroom, such as meals and things of that nature. So what are our plans around how we're going to address those additional needs? Whether, I believe one of our parents mentioned Y care because of their work obligations and things of that nature. So I would like, if it's at all possible, I understand logistics are not always under our control, but where we can't forget about those ancillary pieces that the school provides to the community.
Ms. Fox?
Yeah, thank you. You know what I'm answering, because maybe this may happen for a longer time than we anticipate. So my thought is that for a short period of time, can students be placed to another school over a period of time?
And that's something that we're looking, that would be logistical, we would have to look. So all the so currently, we don't have a space where the whole building of Wood Creek could go to one location.
No, it would be
Yeah, and so.
more than one.
Yeah, so that's something that's certainly on our list of things to consider as well.
So it sounds like the district is considering various options, including potentially transferring students to one or more schools or one or more other locations, considering, I'm assuming, delaying the start date for just Wood Creek students by a week or two, and extending the school year, and then also considering other options for before or after care and transportation and the like. I appreciate what my colleagues are saying, and I also appreciate what the district has been doing in the form of communication and communicating what it can at the information that it has available, but balancing the needs of parents as well, and making sure that at a minimum they know that on this date you will get a plan, our best plan to date, and it sounds like that's going to be this week. I hope that parents have some comfort in knowing that this emergency plan is a 15-day plan and is going to be leveraged in the event of an emergency as a last resort, in the event that none of these other options that we talked about today, and possibly even others that folks in the district are thinking through, aren't available to us. I apologize for this catastrophe and this unfortunate event. I live in the Wood Creek community. My kids went to Wood Creek. This is not great news for anyone, but I do have some comfort in knowing that the district is exploring every opportunity, because none of us view a virtual option as ideal. So please know that. That's not what we want for our children. So we'll do everything in our power to make sure that kids are supported in the best way possible. With that said, I think we are ready to move into, I'm going to pause and see if my colleagues have anything to add. Okay, we're going to move now into our second public comment. If you have not had an opportunity to provide public comment yet and you wish to do so, this is your opportunity to do so. Please fill out a comment form card and put it in the box. You will have 3 minutes. This is, again, the period of time in which we want to hear from the public. Each community member will have 3 minutes. There will be a timer to display the countdown so that you can contain your comments within that time frame. If your comment, again, is related to a student or staff member, please use caution in stating names of individuals where privacy would be more appropriate. The board will respectfully listen, but generally not respond. And in some cases, it might be more appropriate for someone to follow up with you to address your concerns. The first thing we have, first person we have is Thomas Hull, and next we have Vanessa Gwynn. Mr. Hull?
Good evening, board. The concern I have, which is pretty personal, but I'm pretty sure that myself and others are going through the same thing, especially if you never did this before. My son, he's a senior now, and this is our first person going through the whole process. And to be honest with you, we are trying to figure this out, as in all the way from when he was entering into high school as a freshman, as in picking his classes. We found out that the classes that he was taking was not going towards his all the requirements for him to graduate. So he had which he was like social studies or something like that, and he was taking a different type of social studies that we thought was applying to his requirements, and found out that it wasn't. So as of like a couple months ago, we had to scramble around so you can get enough credits for him to graduate. And he had to go through two options: either take an additional class during his senior year, or to do a virtual class over the summer, which was at expense to us, which was like $700 that we had to spend over the summer for the virtual class. And that was like an unexpected thing we had to do because we thought we did everything right, especially he took AP classes and thought that was appropriate. So my suggestion is when they're in middle school, please, 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 please guide these kids to know what they're going to take, because as a 13-year-old trying to decide what they need to take in high school, and they hardly meet with the counselors because unless there's some issues or problems, one of my kids never met the counselors. So it's kind of hard for them to keep what's going on the basis of what's needed to be taken during high school. And as parents, they say, well, you just get your parents to help them out. And as parents, you really don't, you're not there. This is not your forte, so you don't know what needs to be taken because everything's is so convoluted. And then when I did express this to the counselor, they said, well, I wasn't here for those couple years ago, so I don't know what happened. So that was kind of like not really a good explanation, because here we are now. So just my 2 cents, which we can help out in the future.
Thank you. Vanessa Gwynn, and this is my last comment card, so if there is anyone else who wishes to make a public comment, please fill out a card and put it in the box next to Ms. Mayberry.
Hello, I have a very short question, well, 3 questions in one, but I have children who are at Power Middle School. They both have IEPs, and they both have a learning disability. My question is, if we do the E15, excuse me, will it automatically, if it is enacted, be for the 15 days, or is it for the number of days that is required to cover that time period that they can't be in their schools? Secondly, my question is, can this be extended, or can it be another unit of 15 days be added to the back for it to be extended if needed? And lastly, are the units of 15 to be used once in a year's time, academic year? Or is this something that can be reused however many times needs to be used within the 180 days they have for school? That's my questions. Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. If you leave and I think you have left your email address, that might be something that would be more appropriate for us to respond to in an email. We generally don't respond to questions at the board table. Very good questions. I only will answer one that I heard Dr. Coffin address earlier, and the 15 days can be extended by a max of, I heard you say 3. It could be extended by 3 days. Is that what I heard you say?
15 days is the max.
Is the max.
Throughout one school year.
Thank you. Okay, is there any more public comment? Going once, going twice? Public comment is now closed, and we will move to action items. The first action item is related to the African American History course approval and textbook adoption.
Mr. Walker, before I pass that down.
Oh, thank you. We have this book. It's been here for the last couple of board meetings, but in case you are interested in reviewing that, we will entertain a motion unless anyone has any questions of Mr. Smith, who is here to answer any questions that you might have. Mrs. Heinrich?
Yeah, I'm just reading the motion, which doesn't go along with the thing. So the African American History course, so I move that the Board of Education approve the African American History course as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Heinrich. I appreciate that.
Support.
There's a motion to approve the African American History curriculum as presented, supported by Mr. Walker. Is there any discussion?
Is this including the textbook adoption?
Correct.
My question is, did he have any feedback, whether it was negative or positive from people? Staff members, I'm pretty sure, are on board, but has he had any feedback from the community, negative or positive, about this since we discussed this before school was out?
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Mr. Smith, no relation. Did you hear the question?
I did, thank you. Good evening, Board of Education. Welcome back, Dr. Turner. Congratulations, Dr. Coffin. And yeah, I have not, Mrs. Smith, I have not received any negative feedback from community members. There has been some inquiry with some ongoing meetings that I've been having, not specific to African American literacy, but the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It has been really well accepted amongst our staff, our administration, and our students. I will tell you one update is that the course in which in just before or at the end of the year I reported would only be running a section at North Farmington will now be running a section at Farmington High School as well. So there's definitely some momentum. There's definitely a flicker to the flame in this regard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Heinrich and then Dr. Turner.
Yeah, just based on what we heard, this credit counts towards graduation credits and fulfilling the high school graduation requirements
Yes.
for in the curriculum?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Dr. Turner?
Thank you. In my brief review, this is a very grand curriculum that's put together. My question was about the text itself.
Yes.
I know this is 10th edition. Has there been any updates to the text? And if it does, do we plan on adopting the later editions that come in?
The answer to that is yes. That is the latest version. We were in communication with the company all throughout the course of this school year. One of the other things that was covered also in June is we use this brand of textbook with many of our other courses as well. So there's a great working relationship with the company, and we will definitely stay abreast on the latest editions and making sure that our kids have up-to-date information as well as our staff who are teaching out the courses.
Thank you.
Any further questions? There's a motion on the table to approve the adoption of this curriculum in text. It has been seconded. Let's do a roll call, please, Mrs. Fox.
Oh, yes. Dr. Turner,
Yes.
Donald Walker,
Yes.
Claudia Heinrich,
Yes.
Dr. Blau. Yes. Angie Smith,
Yes.
Terry Wayne.
Yes.
President. Myself, Mabel Fox, yes.
Very good. The motion passes. We will move on. Thank you, Mr. Smith. We will move on to the Alumni Pathways project that was just earlier presented. Is there a motion? Mr. Walker?
I move that the Board of Education approve entering into the intergovernmental agreement with Oakland Schools and Lightcast Alumni Pathways at no cost to the district.
Support.
It has been moved and supported by Mr. Walker and Mrs. Smith to approve entering into the intergovernmental agreement with Oakland Schools and Lightcast at no cost to the district. May we have, is there any discussion? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Dr. Turner,
Yes.
Donald Walker,
Yes.
Claudia Heinrich,
Yes.
Dr. Blau. Yes. Angie Smith,
Yes.
Terry Weems, President.
Yes.
Myself, Mabel Fox, yes.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Moving on to the recommended policy updates from Miller Johnson. Mr. Walker?
Understanding that the board elected to waive the first reading, I move that the Board of Education adopt the policy update recommendations as noted in the comments section of Miller Johnson's Policy Manual Update, June 13, 2024, as presented for the following policies: the 1004 Conflict Between Policies and Administrative Regulations Policy, the 2007 Cardiac Emergency Response Plan, the 8007 Discrimination and Harassment Policy, and the 8009 digital communications policy.
Support. It has been moved by Mr. Walker and supported by Mrs. Smith to approve the policies recommended by Miller Johnson in their June 13th update. Is there any discussion? Mrs.
Yes, I just wanted to thank Mr. Walker and your policy committee for taking the time to further explore the other less urgent policies before bringing those to a vote. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, with that, we will have a roll call vote.
Yes. Dr. Turner,
Yes.
Donald Walker,
Yes.
Claudia Hyrick,
Yes.
Dr. Blog,
Yes.
Angie Smith,
Yes.
Terry Weems, President,
Yes.
Mabel Fox, myself, Secretary, yes.
Thank you. That motion passes as well. We will move now to the Emergency 15 E15 Plan. Is there a motion? Mrs. Heinrich?
I move that the district approve and adopt the Emergency 15 E15 Plan as presented.
Support.
Motion made by Ms. Heinrich, supported by Mr. Walker to approve the Emergency 15 Plan as presented. Any discussion? Yes, Ms. Heinrich.
Just to confirm, Dr. Coffin said that this is just a 15-day plan and it's not 15-day plan A and then 15-day plan 2. So it's just 15 days max. Okay.
Any other discussion? Yes.
Per school year.
For the district.
For the district, for any school? So if we need this 15-day plan for Wood Creek now, but something happens at another school?
We're done.
15 days for the district.
For the year. Okay, thank you.
So another question then, I mean, so this is 15 days, but what if something happens and we have the emergency plan for 5 days? Do we still have 10 days that we can use later on?
Yeah, it's 15 days through the year.
Through the year? Okay, so
Okay.
just that, okay. And this just protects the district for any unforeseen emergencies?
I hope we
Okay,
don't.
right, we don't, right, yeah, that's not tied to this particular emergency, it just was a catalyst.
So just to clarify, so if 4 of the days are needed for Wood Creek, we still have the balance of the days left over to use somewhere else if need be? Okay, thank you. Yeah, I didn't know.
Just an aside, this would have come in very handy years ago when Wood Creek used to regularly get closed because of electricity issues. That area often has no power. And we were thinking about adding days to the school year, and instead we added minutes to each school day to avoid extending the school year. So I appreciate this plan. Okay, I think we are ready to call the question. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Okay, Dr. Turner,
Yes.
Donald Walker,
Yes.
Claudia Hyrick,
Yes.
Dr. Blog,
Yes.
Angie Smith,
Yes.
Terry Weems,
Yes.
President,
Yes.
myself, Mabel Fox, yes.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. We will now move to items from the treasurer. Treasurer?
Right, I move that the Board of Education approve the expenditures as outlined in the expenditure printout dated August 13th, 2024 as follows. General Fund, $22,752,000. There's too many. There's, there's too many, there's 4 digits. So I don't know if it's 227 million or 20 million, 22 million.
It's probably 22.
Probably 22 million. Okay, $22,752,416. General Fund Athletics, $170,255. Capital Projects 2020 Bond Fund, $1,717,017. Capital Project 2023 Bond Fund, $3,129,324. Nutrition Services Fund, $541,619. Benefit Stabilization Fund, $2,265,627 for a total of $30,576,258.
Support with the noted correction for accuracy of our record.
Thank you.
Support with the
Expenditures recommended for approval by our treasurer, supported by Dr. Turner. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Now for the consent agenda. Mr. Walker?
I move that the Board of Education approve the August 13th, 2024 consent agenda as follows. A, approval of minutes for June 18th, 2024 regular organizational meeting, July 25th, 2024 special meeting, August 6th, 2024 Finance Facilities Committee meeting, and B, personnel items, board notes.
Support. Consent agenda is recommended for approval by Mr. Walker, supported by Mrs. Smith. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Are there any reports from board representatives? Mrs. Heinrich?
I have a report from the Oakland County School Board Association. Their annual awards banquet was held June 19th, 2024, was attended by myself and Dr. Blau. I was elected to the Board of Directors and will be serving for that in the capacity, so Farmington will be represented on the Board of Directors. And we received some individual board member awards. There's a Level 3 Award of Distinction, and that award, in order to have that award, you have to have completed levels 1 and 2, a total of 4 advanced 200 or 300 level CBA classes, that's certified board member classes, and a minimum of 208 education credits. And Cheryl Blau received a Level 3 Award of Distinction. Mabel Fox received a Level 3 Award of Distinction, and Claudia Heinrich received a Level 3 Award of Distinction. The Level 5 Master Diamond Award, in order to receive that, you have to have completed levels 1, 2, 3, and 4, a total of 14 advanced 200 or 300 level classes, and a minimum of 528 education credits. And Angie Smith received the Level 5 Master Diamond Award. In addition, the Standards of Excellence Award is one where all board members earned an award of merit, and Farmington received a certificate for the entire board for our second consecutive year. So our board received a Standard of Excellence Award.
That is outstanding. Congratulations to Dr. Blau, Mrs. Fox, Mrs. Heinrich, and Mrs. Smith. And congratulations to our entire board for our second year award. And I am very happy that we have just appointed a board member who already is certified, so we continue to be in good status.
Oh, yay.
That's wonderful news. Congratulations to the Board of Education. Thank you for representing us also as an officer at that level. We appreciate you. Are there any more reports from board representatives? Seeing none, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
I don't have to put her.
Yeah, so it should go somewhere.